Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am John, and this is Super Positive Games, and I'm here with my top 10 list of 2017, my 10 favorite games of last year, and of course, the game of the year. I have some other things. I know this video is a little late, a few weeks late, actually. It's now like late January. I had some catching up to do with some of the games from the fall. But yeah, I'm here. I'm delivering this video like a spicy pizza pie. All right. So I have some other things besides my 10 games. I have my three least favorite games, and I have honorable mentions as well. So I'm gonna get into my worst three right now. These are three games that I didn't like. Three games that were disappointing. I expected them to be good, but they turn out to not be good. These games are For Honor, Sonic Forces, and Speedrunners. Some pretty big disappointments on there. You know, For Honor was a AAA game and failed in my eyes. Sonic Forces and Speedrunners also pretty similar games in terms of gameplay, but I guess not for me. I like Sonic, but I like the older, like early 2000s Sonic games. You know, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes. You know, all that. Sonic Riders. I love Sonic Riders. I wish the original Sonic Riders was ported over to this generation, because that was one of my favorite Sonic Riders. But anyway, this is not about Sonic Riders. This is about my favorite games of the year. Before I get into my 10, I do have two honorable mentions, two games that I thought were good. I enjoy them a lot, but they just fell a little short of hitting that 10 mark. They are Agents of Mayhem, which is what you're seeing now. It has a great cast of characters, 12 characters to be exact, not including the DLC. There's like a handful of DLC characters, I think 2 or 3. One of them is Johnny Gat from the Saints Row series, which I think is cool. You start out with 3 characters, and then you have opportunities to unlock the other characters through their origin missions, I guess you could call them. But you do these missions with them, and you get a lot of backstory for each character, which I think is really cool. Like they took a lot of effort and care into making these characters likable and cool and fun, and most importantly, fun to play, gameplay wise, and different to play. You know, they all feel different in some way, shape, or form. Different weapons, different sets of abilities and stuff like that. I will say that the story is not there. It's mediocre at best. The story. It could be a lot better, but it's not. It's just not very interesting at all. It's pretty cookie cutter, and so is the mission structure and the level design. It has you in every mission, including the main storyline missions, go underground into these lairs that house the Legion, which is like the enemy group Legion, and you go on in these lairs and you have to, kill a bunch of enemies, hack stuff, scan stuff, and it's very the same. All these layers look exactly the same, not only texture wise, but their layouts are replicas of each other. Like, there are several different areas, but they all have the same looking layers, like exactly the same. Like, there's a big staircase, and then like the structure, it's exactly the same for a lot of the locations. And you do exactly the same type of things, like I mentioned before, hacking stuff, scanning stuff, and killing waves of enemies. It's just not fun, really. The most fun gameplay happens above ground, not in these layers, but there's just too many of these layers, and they all look exactly the same. So not great mission structure or level design there. It's very samey, but thankfully the characters and their different style of gameplay and abilities make it fun, and it's still fun to kill these enemies and shoot stuff because of the big cast of characters that they have. And this is the first time in a video game where I see a system where you play as 3 characters at the same time, but so you're one character and you have 2 characters, like I guess in your back pocket that you could switch to at any given time. So you could be playing as one character and you have 3 different characters to use at any given time, which is really cool. Some of the missions, it depends. Some of the missions have you playing as only one character, but most of the time you have that you're rocking those 3 characters, and you could switch through them almost like a weapon switch, which I thought was cool. I've never seen that in a game before. You could put perks on top of perks. There's very deep systems. If you like very deep systems, almost like an RPG. I wouldn't call this an RPG, but the systems, like the upgrades and the perks, are very deep. They're very detailed and deep, which contrasts the type of gameplay that the game features, which is very samey. So the stuff that it has going for it, the deep cast of characters with great backstories, the very, very diverse characters, and a deep upgrade system. But everything else in the game, mission structure, level design, story, just fell flat and was kind of disappointing. But yeah, I mean, still fun thanks to the characters, and I felt compelled to actually finish through the story because of these characters. But yeah, I thought it was good. Could have been better, but Agents of Mayhem. If you're into Saints Row, I would give it a shot. I would say though, if this game only featured one playable character, it would be terrible. That those 12 characters really save this game. They really, really do. So yeah, Agents of Mayhem. My other honorable mention is Madden NFL 18. It's got a true cinematic story mode. The gameplay in this mode, it's called Long Shot. It doesn't really kick in until like half an hour in, so it's all cutscenes. It has the thing, it's like a telltale thing. It lets you choose like different options, like whether it be like an action or dialogue. So I think that's cool. But like I'm talking about like football gameplay doesn't kick in until like a half an hour in or 45 minutes in. But that's not a bad thing because the story's great. The story is fantastic. But the gameplay is interesting because, of course, you have those flashbacks to the character's name is Devin, and you have flashbacks to his high school games. So, but instead of playing the entire game from kickoff, it sets up the situation where your team is down by like 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. You come in to help tie it up and then eventually win the game, which is interesting. I thought it was more interesting than starting a game at kickoff because the energy or the tension starts low. The game just started, but here what it does is it starts at a very tense moment, and it's your job to pull through, which I thought was very interesting and better than if they would have went with full football games. And in this campaign, there is not a full football game, which is interesting. Not even in the entire campaign is there a front to back football game, which really shows how invested they were, how invested the team was in making this story. Because it's not really about the gameplay here. It's about the story of this high school, or not this high school, this quarterback Devin, who was really great one time, and he hit a bump in the road, and now he's trying to climb back up there in the football world. Yeah, great characters, great performances, great writing. Everything about this is great. It's really hard to find a complaint about the Long Shot story mode, really. The character development too, it's just all great. It's great. As for the main Madden experience, it's just regular Madden, really. It looks great, but it's Madden, Taking years off of playing Madden made me excited to play this year. Because if there was no long shot, I would not have got Madden NFL 18. I would not have bought it. But since it had this story mode and I was interested in it, I felt compelled. I was like, I want to try this out. I want to see what it's like. And I did. And because of that, I got hooked on the classic Madden gameplay. And I got hooked because of that time off. Now, if they decide to have another story mode next year, if they continue this trend of the story mode, like long shot next year and in the coming years, I'm down to buy Madden for the next few years, like annually. The thing is though, I'll love playing the stories, but I think I'll get tired of the Madden gameplay because I won't have that time off that I had this year. So I would basically only be buying it for the story, really. Which is sad, but hey, this story was great, and I have a feeling that if they do it again, if they do another story or they continue this one, it'll be amazing. Yeah, so Madden NFL 18, great game. I'd say if you're not really into football or Madden, I don't think this is the game for you, but if you are, definitely go for it. Let's get into this list here, this ranked list. We're going to start at number 10, of course, and work our way up to Game of the Year, number 1. But number 10, I have here Need for Speed Payback. This is a game that I didn't really enjoy for its story or its world building, because there really isn't world building here or a great story. What there is a great arcade racing system. This is my favorite racing game ever. It has very deep systems here. So like every race that you win or every event that you win, you get a speed card. And what speed cards do is you equip them to your car and they upgrade your car stats, right? And one important stat is your overall ranking for that car. So the max ranking is 399. I think every car starts out at 100. And you just go up from there. Every speed card that you get, you could equip it. And that number grows. And watching that number grow from 100 to 399 was really fun. Story here is very bland, but it does have a very diverse set of car classes and races. Very, very diverse. There's racing, clearly. There's off-road, drift, drag, and runner. Runner is, the other ones are self-explanatory. Runner is, there are 3 characters. One of them does racing and drag racing. The other one does off-road and drifting. And the other one, Jess, does runner only. And runner is a specific type of car end mission where it's like jobs, like you're a driver for a bank heist or you're picking up intel or whatever. Like you're doing like jobs for this anonymous person who's also trying to help you take down the house. There are different sections of this game and they're divided by missions. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'll try to make sense of it here. But so you start off with leagues, right? There are different societies and racing leagues, and you have to knock them out and then do a heist mission. And then after you do the heist mission, it gives you another set of street leagues to take out. When I say take out, I mean beat them in races. And then after you do that set, it gives you another mission, like a heist type of mission where all 3 of your characters join in and do this heist. And then after that, it gives you another set, and it just keeps repeating in that like structure. Which I wasn't really a fan of, but I was fine with because it meant I got to play more of the game. It's a long game. The world is like a fake Las Vegas. So you got like your downtown area of Las Vegas, and then you have your desert area, which is like most of the map, and then you have like a few foresty areas. It looks good, but in terms of world building and making sure the world feels lived in, it just does not do the job. It feels kind of empty, but I think that it's necessary, in this type of game, it's necessary to have an open world, because it is about driving I just wish that it was a better, more developed world. But it's not. But that did not stop me from enjoying the great arcade style racing gameplay that it offered. And I think this is the first ever racing game that I finished. So that says something. Moving on to number 9 is Night in the Woods. This is an indie game. It has a great art style, very unique art style. I don't think you'll see this type of art style anywhere else, really. It has great writing and a great story. Great story. There are some relatable moments in the story with May and her friends and how they interact. You play May, a 20-year-old college dropout, and it's fun. I mean, I do have a problem with it, and that problem is pacing. So it's structured in a way where it's like you're living as May in like her everyday life. So you wake up every morning, you go downstairs, talk to mom, you go out, do whatever it is that you did that you're supposed to do, and then you come back at night, talk to dad, go up to sleep, and then wake up again the next morning and do everything else all over again, really, which is my problem here. So like every day you have like a goal or like a plan with some of your friends. So like, for example, like tomorrow I'm gonna go visit Greg at the Snack Falcon, right? And so I would wake up and visit everywhere else except for the Snack Falcon in the town, because there's like a town where you explore, right? So I would do everything else except for go to the Snack Falcon, because I was afraid that I would miss something, that like a character that would pop up somewhere. So I checked everywhere there is to check every single time it let me out into the world. And there are some areas that do open up after a while that you get access to, but that was just like another area for me to explore before moving on to progress the storyline. So I got tired of checking everywhere. I don't think the game is meant for you to do that. I think the game is meant for you to just go out and do whatever you were planning to do for that day, which is, go hang out with your friends, one time you go to a party, you have band practice a few times, or you go on some other crazy adventure. But yeah, I had problems with the pacing, and you don't really move too fast throughout the world. So exploring every area every single day got a little tiresome. But once I finally got around to visiting Greg at the Snack Falcon, or whoever it was that for those days, it brings you on some very fun adventures. Great stuff here. That's my only qualm with Night in the Woods. It's open world. I use air quotes for open world, but it's exploration pacing. Great mini games too. It has a number of really fun mini games, and mini games that you can repeat. So for example, May plays bass guitar, which would explain the band practice thing that I mentioned. But there's a mini game in here which is kind of like Guitar Hero, where the notes come up on the screen, they like roll on the screen, and you have to hit them in the order that they come up in order to play the song. And there are like a handful of songs on here that I found myself coming back to time and time again. Every time I had a chance to play these songs, I did. I was always playing these songs any chance that I got, because they were fun. I was addicted to that type of gameplay, the Guitar Hero style of gameplay. Very well implemented here. She keeps her bass guitar in her room, and every morning or night that she's up there, you could play it. You could play like 2 songs each time. Really great. And every time there was band practice, every time the characters talked about going to band practice the next day, I got really excited. I wanted to run over the band practice to start the band practice, but I was held back by exploring the same town over and over again, trying not to miss out on anything that might pop up somewhere. But yeah, it's got loads of fun mini games. It actually has a game within a game. It's called I forgot what it was called, but it's like a dungeon crawler. And it's on May's laptop, and you could go to her room every night, or when you wake up in her room, and play this dungeon crawler game on her laptop. It's actually pretty fun. I played like until level 5 out of 10. There's 10 levels. I got like halfway through, and it gets difficult, but it's fun. I spent like a good half hour to 45 minutes playing this dungeon crawler within Night in the Woods. Yeah, Night in the Woods, great story. Great all around everything. I just wish it was, paced a little better in terms of the exploration aspect. But yeah, great game. I highly recommend it. I recommend it if you're looking for a rich story that's somewhat relatable with great characters, great character development and stuff like that. Try out Night in the Woods. I definitely deserves to be on this list somewhere. Number 9 is where it landed. Moving onwards, number 8, right? Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands. The story here is non-existent. There is no story here at all. It's gameplay only, and what it lacks in story, it makes up in gameplay. The world is huge world. But it is bland. It is kind of bland. I think this is the first ever Ghost Recon game I've played, and I think this is the first time that they've had an open world. It's huge, but it felt empty. It suffered from open world syndrome. Kind of like Need for Speed Payback also suffers from that, and Agents of Mayhem. These are games that I mentioned previously, but this game also suffers from that. And there is lots to do in this world. I'll give it that. There's a lot of like collectibles or weapon upgrades to collect, or weapons to collect, or bases to take over. The stealth gameplay is probably the best stealth of the year. I don't know. I'll get back to you on that, but it's really, really a great system. Stealth gameplay. I think this is like the pinnacle of. This is what all stealth games should look at to try and get better. Because oh my gosh, like I was hooked on this stealth. I mean, how many times do I have to stay stealth today? And the game does a good job of making you feel capable of handling situations that go awry. It felt good to finally learn how to play the game correctly, and because of that, do better on stealth missions. I remember actually the first time I nailed a stealth mission, it felt awesome. Like I was doing everything correctly. I was hiding behind the right corners. I was, using my drone correctly. I was, using the sync shot correctly, which is really fun to use, the synchronized shot where you could assign targets to your 3 teammates and you could all take out your targets at the exact same time. And it's really, really cool and satisfying. And it's a good way to clean up some areas. Yeah, I don't know what else needs to be said about this game. I love it for its gameplay. That's really it. But yeah, let's move on to another game here. To number 7, Middle-earth: Shadow of War. This game is freaking awesome, really. In Shadow of War, it's a little more bright, colorful. You have like different types of areas. You have like a city, and then you have a foresty place. It's got a great world and great world building as well. It does not suffer from what they call open world syndrome. Great looking world, vibrant, colorful. And a pretty good story. It's easy to understand, and it's pretty good. It's there. It makes itself known. It's got that good balance of story and gameplay. The gameplay being its main feature here. It does a great job of making you feel powerful. If I messed up in stealth and I went loud, as they say, I would have no problem dealing with these enemies. As opposed to in Ghost Recon, I'd be like, oh no, holy shit. Right here in Shadow of War, no problem. Throw 1,000 orcs Talion's way, no big deal, right? And it makes you feel really, really powerful, kind of like Doom does, or Fallout 3 if you get far enough, right? In Fallout 3, you start off obviously shitting your pants, or at least I did, but eventually you get powerful enough to be able to handle everything that the Wasteland throws your way. Watch out, Wasteland. Here comes the guy. But here it doesn't really waste any time making you feel weak. Really, you start off kicking ass, and you only go up from there with skills from the skill tree, and different abilities that you acquire. There's a lot to do. The Nemesis system is the same, but one addition that I've noticed is the siege mode, where it's a mechanic where you get together an army and you take over a castle or like a large base. But in the Nemesis system, the orcs that you control, you could assign them to different slots in your front lines for that attack, and you could give them like upgrades, or you could pick what kind of troops that they bring, like shield troops or warrior troops with like double axes and stuff like that. So it gives you a lot of customization options. Great story, great gameplay, great world building. Highly recommend especially if you're a Lord of the Rings fan or the Hobbit fan. You need, like, this is essential. Like, you need to get on this right now because it's definitely for you if you are a fan of and I'm not even like really a fan of the Lord of the Rings world because I've never seen the movies. I know, don't kill me. Eventually I will someday. Even though I'm not like a fan yet of the world, like I still really, really enjoyed the game. And I think that says something for the type of game that it is and how good it is. It's able to drag in a lot of people and make people fans, So number 7, Middle Earth, Shadow of War. But number 6, moving right along here, number 6 is Tacoma. This is an indie game made by Fulbright Studios, the makers of Gone Home. Tacoma has a great story, fantastic story. Although it does spoil itself in a way early on by telling you, like right when you get into the game, it tells you that all 6 members of the station made it out alive, right? All 6 people survived. And it tells you that because it's your job to go back through there and gather their alternate reality data. So you know that they all survive going into the game. So in that way, it kind of spoils itself a little bit. However, it did not ruin it. It did not ruin it. For me, I still enjoyed the journey that these characters went on and seeing their relationships, like seeing them work together in this situation was still very awesome. The character development, the voice acting is it's actually stellar stuff here. The gameplay is very unique. I've never played a game like this where it's like there's like a timeline. This is going to be very hard to explain. And if you've played the game, you know what I'm talking about. It's like a timeline, almost like a YouTube video, right? And you could press X to play the video, press X to pause the video. You could fast forward, or you could rewind. And what you're watching is in real space the alternate reality recordings of these 6 people, and they all like walk around. There's like they do things. They walk around, so it's kind of hard to keep track of them in this timeline. So I found myself always rewinding to make sure I caught everything that they did or where they were or things that they said, because you can't hear them all at once. You have to be in the same area as them, as their AI recording, to really hear them. So in a specific thing that I remember is there's a part where at the beginning of the timeline they're all together in one place, and then they all break up and like they go, like one person goes off in one room, 2 people go off somewhere else. One guy goes in like the other room, and it's hard because they all start walking in a different direction. And it's like, holy shit, like what do I do? So I assigned each watch of the timeline to one character, and I just followed them wherever they went. If they went in a room by themselves and then another character walked in, I finished on them, and then I went back to the circle to where they're all grouped up, and I watched the character that met up with that character fully through the timeline. And I kept going back and following each individual character in every timeline. I hope that makes sense, but in watching each timeline over and over again, it didn't get old. It actually enhanced my understanding of the story, and it made me like the story even more than I did the first time watching each timeline, which I think is awesome, man. I mean, the gameplay is great. It's great. It's a walking simulator. And I love walking simulators. You know, what's not to love about them? Of course, if they have a great story, right? You know, you're walking around, you know, you're controlling this timeline, and you're finding, you know, notes and emails of these characters, reading them, and just listening to them talk. I mean, I played Gone Home, which is the game I mentioned this before. The studio that made Tacoma made Gone Home. That was their first game, and that was all reading. There's a lot of reading, but here at Tacoma, I wasn't really a fan of Gone Home because of that. Like, Tacoma, you have visual and audio, you have voice acting representations. So it's easy, it's more accessible in that way, and it's easier to take in than reading a whole bunch of notes. There's still stuff to read here, but the main story comes through with the voice acting and the AR recordings. And at first, you know, the characters, you don't really know too much about them. You know, it's even confusing. It's hard to name them all, but as you go through the different sections, you know, like, oh, that's Clive, oh, that's Nat. You know, you get to know their names, and I think that's really cool. Great character development here, and I really can't wait to see what Fullbright does next, because they're on a roll here. I know I wasn't really a fan of Gone Home, but I know it was a huge hit in the gaming world, and here Tacoma is blowing me away. So they've got something good going for them, Fullbright, and I can't wait to see what they do next. But Tacoma number 6, highly recommend the game. Great everything all around. No, hard to find anything to complain about here. Moving on to number 5. Number 5 is Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. So now we are halfway through this list. Number 5, Wolfenstein 2 is fucking crazy. Blew my mind. Okay, there's more than one scene here that will fucking blow you away, right? Just wow. Did that really happen? And if you played the game, you know exactly which moments I'm talking about. The characters are great. Great character development here for a lot of these characters. Gameplay wise, it's kind of hard. It's a difficult game, but it's still fun. It encourages a run and gun style of gameplay, but the gameplay is too difficult to do that, right? Because many times when I tried to run and gun, I would often miss my shots, and because of that, I'd get killed. So I found myself being more reserved in this game, because I tried those run and guns early on, and I was like, this isn't working. I better, you know, take this step by step here, because each enemy is meant to challenge you. You know, it's meant to be a problem, right? So, yeah, I felt more reserved as a player, you know, taking things more carefully. Stealth often went awry, often had to go loud, because the stealth system isn't really great. You know, it's not a great stealth system. So, I don't think the game is meant for stealth. It wasn't optimized for stealth. But you know, it's possible to stealth through. It's just a really difficult beat, not really made for that. So when I did mess up a lot, but you know, the shooting is fun, and really in Wolfenstein, you got the good story. You know, you got not the good story. You got the fucking insane story. You know, you got the fun shooting. You know, it's a good combination here. I will say the conclusion to this story, is kind of unsatisfying, because I mean, there's a satisfying moment for sure, and that just adds on to the fucking insanity that you see. In terms of like the grand scheme of things for the story, it's not really fulfilling. It's not satisfying, because it's the end of the game is the beginning of the movement or the revolution that they were trying to start the whole time, and it just ends there. But you know, there is a satisfying moment there as well to kind of help with that, but I saw past that immediately, because I've seen so many of those moments before, and I was like, at this point I was like, oh my god, I was beaten over the head with this insanity, that I was able to see over, I guess, what they were trying to do, maybe. And, you know, kind of a disappointing end. But, oh my god. I know, of course, it gives you a lot of customization options in terms of loadouts, what guns you're rocking. You could do like a shotgun in one hand and a assault rifle in the other, or an SMG in one hand, a pistol in the other. Who would do that? Who would do a pistol and an SMG? It seems terrible. But you get the point. You get a lot of gameplay customization options here, which is great. But great game all around. It does have some problems, but man, that story makes up for everything. It does. Oh, another problem though, there is no chapter select at the end of the game. There is a bit of an end game to it where it lets you go back on like this map screen and pick like locations to go, to like hunt down commanders and stuff after the game. So there's a bit of an end game going on, but no chapter select, which is very disappointing, especially for a story like this, which a story that I would love to experience time and time again. I can't really unless I hope there's different save files that I could use. If not, then there's a huge problem because I would love to restart the story, but I also don't want to lose my post game stuff that they've given me. So definitely deserve to be on this list somewhere, and it got the number 5 there, made it to the top 5. Jesus, that story. But moving onwards to number 4 is Call of Duty World War II. This game, it's hard not to talk about this game in pieces, because it does come in pieces. You got, of course, the campaign, you got your zombies mode or co-op mode, and then you got your multiplayer game. The campaign here is very good. It's very good. It's been good the last few years. Not Black Ops 3. Advanced Warfare was good, campaign-wise. Black Ops 3 was trash in every way, shape or form. Infinite Warfare had a good campaign, and this one does too. It's got some nice characters to it, although 2 of them in particular, I'm not going to name names, kind of aren't used to their full potential. They do have personalities, but they're barely there. They're not really important in the story, so they kind of fall flat. Yeah, I mean the campaign, man, it's great. The story's great. I mean, there's a different style of gameplay than recent years, with the health pack system. Instead of having regenerating health, you have to use health packs to heal. Not really that big of a problem because there's health packs everywhere. Everywhere you turn, you're seeing a health pack. It's impossible not to look somewhere and not see a health pack. I think the enemies shoot health packs at you. I think they just throw health packs at you. They're just lying around everywhere. You step all over, you're just tripping on health packs in here. That could also be the difficulty. I played on normal, or the normal regular difficulty. So I wonder if in the harder ones they're less abundant. But you could also get health packs from your buddy Zussman. Each character in your squad can provide a service for you. So Zussman gives you health packs. Another character gives you more ammo. Another character gives you more grenades. Another character gives you like a signal flare for a bombing run. So each character has their uses. But keep in mind though, like if a character is not with you on this mission, you can't use their service because they're not physically there. And that happens a lot. So there might be a mission where Zussman isn't there to give you health packs. So, or the ammo guy, I forgot his name. He isn't there to give you more ammo, so you better be conservative about your ammo. So I mean, it plays around with that, which I like. So it doesn't force the characters to be there because of that mechanic. The mechanic kind of takes a back seat to the narrative and where the characters are, which I like. It's a better way to do it than having the characters always there. Every character has to be always there to give you these things. No, they don't. No, if they're not going to be there for some reason, you don't get to use the thing that they were going to give you. So I like that. Yeah, and this change is great. I think the change of setting also helped this campaign a lot. It did a great job. Very fun and very beautiful environments in this campaign here. The multiplayer is very fun as well. It's because there's no more jetpacks, you're not flying around. It kind of takes a more strategic style of gameplay. At least for me, I find myself like, a little bit more careful, or I thought a lot of things through in some situations here, rather than like the last few years just running around and jumping around like a fucking jungle gym with bullets. But here it's very more it's a little bit more strategic, and the war mode also, which is an objective based match, that also brings a level of strategy, and that's welcome. It's welcome. I like it. There's a headquarters place, which is kind of whatever. It has its uses, I guess. It's not really something to complain about, and it's also not something to rave about, really. It's just there. It's fun to open your supply boxes there and watch people look at them, I guess. But multiplayer is great. It's addicting, and then there's the zombies mode, which is awesome. It's the best zombies mode since Black Ops 2, which Black Ops 2 is my favorite zombies of all time. This one does not beat it, but it's the best since Black Ops 2. Really damn good. Really great map, a pretty map. I'm really into the zombies mode. I'm very into it. And not only am I into the Easter egg or the final boss, that this is like the first time I've actually done it in the zombies mode. I've actually, well, of course, with other people, really. But I've done it, and it was very satisfying. I think that, and not only am I into that aspect, I'm into the new systems that they have, because it's very old school and new school zombies. It's got the old school style and feel to the map and look to the map, but it's also got new school systems. So like the armor system where you go buy armor. It's got consumable items. It's got loadout systems where you could start with an assault rifle. These things were never in the original zombies games or the old school zombies games. They're here now, and they brought in the old school feel to it. So it's a nice combination here. It's kind of like what Doom did with having that old school gameplay but the new school graphics. Yeah, the old and new sometimes can mix and do very terribly or very, very well. And in this case, with the zombies, it does very, very well. So yeah, the Easter egg is fun. I found that the objectives in the zombies mode are very important. Like they make a big deal. They make a point to like show you the things to do. In order to do the Easter egg, it's not just survive anymore. I feel like there's a more of a purpose to running around this map here and doing the Easter egg, and like doing not the but like doing the different things in order to make the final boss come out. It's more of a focus in this game, which I really liked. I love going for rounds, but having an objective, having a goal, and doing that goal successfully, and most importantly, learning how to do this goal and get the final boss to come out through watching other players do it and shadowing them is very satisfying. Because you shadow them and then you learn how they do things, and then now you go into another match and you have people shadowing you, and you're leading them, and you're showing them how to do this, that, and the other thing to make the final boss come out. Fucking awesome zombies mode. My favorite in a while, really. And I really can't wait to see what they come up with next in World War II with the zombies mode. I feel very compelled to buy the season pass now, because I'm excited for what they have coming up next for zombies. This what Sledgehammer does with this zombies mode is going to be great. And Sledgehammer just knocked this whole game out of the park, right? They're good. They've shown that they're very good with their storytelling. Advanced Warfare was great, had a great story to it. This one does. They're great with multiplayer, and they stepped up their zombies mode from Advanced Warfare, because Advanced Warfare was kind of zombies. But this one, they stepped it up big time. All three aspects of this Call of Duty are great. All three aspects are awesome, incredible. Which has been a while since all three aspects of a Call of Duty game have been out of the park. There's every game of late of the last 6 years has had one mode that's like That sucks. But this game, all three of them are great. Sledgehammer is doing Call of Duty right, and the switch back to the old school setting, the World War II setting, served it well. And I'm excited to see what comes next from the franchise, because to me, Call of Duty is revived. So great job, Sledgehammer Games. Amazing Call of Duty World War II number 4 spot. Moving on to the number 3 spot, I have Prey. Now, Prey's concept alone blew my mind. There's a moment in the very beginning where you do something and something happens and you realize that everything is a lie. Everything that you've done in the last 20 to 30 minutes in the game is a lie. You've been lied to. And that moment, I think if you played it, you know exactly what I mean. There's that moment, and it blew me the hell away. And then still after that moment, it took me a while to realize that I was actually on a space station. And the first time that I saw outer space through a window was a huge moment for me, because I was like, holy shit, I've been in space this entire time and I didn't know it until now. Like an hour or so into the game. That's the kind of shit that just blows my mind. The story is pretty good. It's nothing crazy good. It's but it's a pretty good story. I'd have to say the world building here is stellar world building. And what helps is the fabricators. Instead of there being a menu where you craft things like a boring old UI menu, it's actually a machine in the game, and there's multiples of these machines throughout the space station, but they're actually machines in the game that you go up to and you interact with and you make what you need, like whether it be health packs or ammo or grenades or whatever. You make it through these machines, and I think that added so much to the world building aspect of this game, instead of it having been just a boring menu. Wowzers. This game is hella awesome, as the kids say. But the combat style is something else that I need to talk about here. A lot of people had misconceptions. They thought it was another Doom type of game. It's not. It's kind of like a survival horror game, but without the horror. It's not really a horror game. Yeah, there are like some jump scares sometimes, and it's kind of creepy from time to time, but it's not a horror game, really. More like a survival kind of game. And with that, the gunplay and the gameplay is more reserved, rather than like a Doom style run and gun. It doesn't make you feel powerful, which I like. I like games that make me feel powerful, like, of course, like I mentioned before, Middle-earth: Shadow of War. But then again, I also like games where I feel less powerful. And I'm like struggling to survive here, and it's a good feeling. It's not optimized for run and gun. However, it starts to throw a lot of enemies at you, and you're encouraged to run and gun, and it doesn't feel good, and it's not a good thing. If they kind of toned it down there with the number of enemies that they throw at you later on in the game, it would feel more consistent throughout. But it's not a run and gun style game, and it kind of makes you want to run and gun with the large, numerous enemies that they throw your way later on. Going back to the story, like I said before, great story, but there's a thing that kind of bothered me a little bit the whole way through. It was aliens versus you. You're Morgan Yu, and it's you versus these aliens, and that's been the dynamic the entire time. Is you're on this ship alone, and there's a bunch of aliens trying to kill you, and that's what it is. But later on in the game, about a little later than halfway through, they throw in this bounty hunter, this human bounty hunter sent by TranStar, who's I think owns the space station, and they want to destroy it. So they send this bounty hunter, human guy, to be your antagonist now, like your new antagonist. I was like, why have this human antagonist when I was fine with just the aliens? I was perfectly fine with the aliens, but they throw in this human to be a bad guy, and it just didn't work very well. Thankfully he didn't stick around too long, thanks to me not liking him and shooting him in the head. But yeah, he didn't stick around too long, so that was all right, fine. But really, I love it. I love it, and there's a twist at the end here. They at the end there's like kind of like a little twist ending that they do, which is interesting. But yeah, great game. Totally recommend it if you're into space, just like Tacoma. If you're into sci-fi, if you're into space stations and stuff, totally get this game. It's fun. It's got good systems. It does a good job of, you have a lot of resources. You have all the ammo in the world. You have like 100 health packs one moment, and then like 20 minutes later you're down to 2 bullets and 1 health pack, and you're like, what the hell happened? What the fuck just happened? I need to get my shit together. It does a good job of fluctuating your resources, and there's a nice variety of enemies that it introduces, and I love learning about the different types of enemy, Typhon aliens, because there's it does a good like database system. I like learning about these aliens because I was so interested. I was fascinated by this game and everything about it, really. And I think it deserved to be on this list. In the top 5, got number 3. So great job, Arcane Studios. Fucking amazing game. Prey is amazing. I can't wait to see what they do next in terms of Prey. I hope there's some kind of continuation or DLC or a whole new game or whatever, but I want more, really. I just want more of Prey. Prey is incredible. And yes, moving on to number 2 is What Remains of Edith Finch. It is freaking awesome. It is. It really is. It's got stellar storytelling that I have never seen before. Really, like its gameplay is the storytelling, which is so interesting, so incredible. You go explore this house that you've lived in your childhood, but you moved away for some reason. I'm not going to tell you why, but you go back into this house and you start exploring everything, and you find out about all your dead relatives and how they died. It lets you play through their death scenes. Yeah, so it lets you do that, but the first few times you don't know that it's your death scene. It's the character's death scene. So you're playing through, and it's like, oh, they died, and it's after a few of these sections where you realize, oh, these are all stories of how they died, and then you catch on, and then once you realize that the sections ahead, the gameplay areas ahead, you realize that going into them, and you're like, holy shit, this character's gonna die right now. I'm killing this character right now. And I think because you know that a certain point through the game, you like it doesn't spoil. I mean, it spoils the section, but like it makes it so insane because you know that you're actively killing the character. Whatever you're doing right now, you're killing the character, and just knowing that as you're playing the game is so haunting and unbelievable. Really, it creates such a weird feeling, like I'm murdering this character right now, through them. It's just wow. And a lot of these sections here that I'm talking about will make you say wow, say verbally wow. And people, if there's other people in the room, they're going to turn around and look. They're going to look at you, and they're going to say, why are you saying wow? And you're going to say, fucking sit down and play this game, and then you'll know. You will realize why I said wow. And the gameplay never gets old in these. Like every death scene, every section has unique gameplay. It's never the same. It doesn't feel samey. It never gets boring. Never. And it's a short game. It's like an hour and a half to 2 hours. It's pretty short. You could run through it rather quickly. Same thing with Tacoma. I forgot to mention that. But it's like it never gets boring. Nothing gets old. It's oh my god, climbing up the house, as you go from room to room, playing these different scenes is just absolutely insane. This is a special game, and I found myself looking I found myself like towards the end of the game, like staring at the pause screen, right? Because the pause screen has, like a family tree of the Finches, and like they're all connected, right? So it's like this family tree, and they have like the date of birth and the date of death for each family member, and I liked going through, like staring at this tree and seeing where each character was at the time of whoever's death. Like, oh, when this guy died, when this character died, she was this age and she was here and she was doing this whatever. Or when she died, this character was here, like her brother was this age doing that, and that's probably why he did that. Or, you know what I mean? It's like staring at the lineage of the Finches through this pause menu. Like I took extra time to do it, and I think it paid off because it also helped me understand the storyline even more. Because I mean, the game already does a great job of telling you what's what, but the pause menu also just helps clear things up, or you know, it's there as like a guide, really, to like see, oh, if you're confused about something, take a look at the thing at the menu, and you know, it's overall there's nothing to complain about in this game. Absolutely zero things to complain about. Out of every game that I mentioned on this list, I absolutely recommend What Remains of Edith Finch. Absolutely. Totally worth it. Totally worth whatever price tag I will pay. I would have paid $200 for this game. Not really, but you know, it's totally worth the purchase, and it's totally worth your time. It doesn't even, like I mentioned before, it's pretty short. But that does not at all take away from the experience that you're going to get from it. It's, oh my gosh, really. God. So definitely, absolutely deserves its number 2 spot that I gave it. So Giant Sparrow, the developer of this game, it's an indie game. I don't know if I didn't mention that before. Giant Sparrow, incredible job. Well done. I really can't wait to see what they have next, because whatever they have next, it's going to be absolutely mind-boggling. And I really believe that, because they know what they're doing. They have their storytelling knack. We know this. And they have their gameplay, their unique gameplay knack. And whatever they're going to do next, I have faith that it's going to be absolutely great. So yeah. So moving on to my game of the year, number 1 spot on this list is Assassin's Creed Origins. Now, Assassin's Creed Origins is absolutely great. And I'm gonna get into it. I'm gonna get into why I think that way now, and why I think it's the best out of all the games that I've mentioned so far today. First of all, let me just talk about the world, right? The world, open world, as it's been forever, right? It's huge. It's humongous. I have finished the game, and there are still a good number of regions that I have not even set foot in yet. And I finished the main game. That's how huge this world of ancient Egypt that Ubisoft created is. Humongous. And now I understand why they took the last year off. You know, and I hope they do it again in the future, but I'll get into that later. But now I understand why they took so long, because this world is humongous, right? The world build, not only is it humongous, it does not suffer from what the kids call open world syndrome. It's full. It's full of life. It's teeming with life. You know, it feels alive, lived in. You know, it's the world building that they do is crazy, incredible. You know, different areas look and feel different from each other. The combat system is probably the main thing that's different from all the other Assassin's Creed games. It's more of like an RPG style of combat. But I really wouldn't call the game as a whole an RPG, though. You know, the combat and some of its systems are very much like an RPG, but it's still Assassin's Creed at the core. A lot of people thought that it sacrificed its identity, but I think it's got that Assassin's Creed feeling to it, that Assassin's Creed life to it, still, amongst all these RPG style changes that this installment has. But the combat system at first, the first like hour or so, I wasn't really feeling it. But then I learned how to do it correctly. And I got a little bit better at it, and I realized, this is fun. I still think it's a little bit flawed because it's a little bit flawed because of the lock-on system that it has. So you're able to lock on to enemies, and that works if you're fighting 1 or 2 enemies. But if you're fighting like more than 3 enemies, it's ideal to have the enemy closest to you locked onto. But they move around a lot. So it's hard to like have one enemy to lock onto when there's like 3 or 4 enemies, 5 enemies surrounding you. That system kind of gets lost in the chaos a little bit, and I kind of just found myself just going around just hacking and slashing, or chasing one singular enemy and locking onto him and attacking him to get him out of the way before moving on to anybody else. But in that way, I think it's a little bit flawed, but it's still fun. It has a lot of weapons. There's a great variety of weapons. You got, your sickle sword, you got your regular sword, you got your battle axe, you got your maces, you got your spears, you have shields, you have a nice array of bows and arrows. A nice array, and they all do different kinds of things. You have the warrior bow, which is you shoot like 3 or 4 or 5 arrows at once, and it's like kind of like a shotgun spread. You got your rapid fire arrow, where you shoot like 3 or 4 arrows in rapid succession. That's like called the light bow. You got your predator bow. Your predator bow, which is like your long range sniper kind of bow, which also puts you in first person, which I thought was interesting. I got a flashback to Far Cry Primal there whenever I used that predator bow, which I used a lot. Very helpful for long range. And then you have your regular, you pull back and then you release the trigger to shoot bow. But a very nice selection of bows and arrows. I mainly stuck to the light bow, which is like the rapid fire bow, and the predator bow. And I really liked how these bows and arrows, this ranged combat was implemented into the game. I remember back the last time this series saw a bow and arrow was Assassin's Creed 3. And I remember it was so difficult to use a bow and arrow in the game. You wouldn't think it would be difficult, but you had to like lock on to the animal that you were going to kill, or the enemy that you're going to kill first. And when I say lock on, I mean like have them be positioned in a way that they're highlighted, and then you have to press one button, and Connor would get the bow out, fire the bow, and then shoot all with one button. And it was just so weird. And I remember trying to figure out how to get your bow out so you could just use it regularly. And you can't. I couldn't. I spent like an hour trying to figure it out. You just can't. So in this game, I'm very glad that they did bows and arrows right, where you could aim it wherever you want. You could use it wherever you want. Aim freely. You could, do whatever you want with these bows and arrows. You could use them in combat. You could, in the middle of a fight, just pull out a bow and arrow and start shooting motherfuckers, right? So I really liked how the bows and arrows were implemented into the combat system here. Way better than past instances in the franchise. Yeah, so that's the combat. I enjoyed the combat is freaking awesome. It doesn't really make you feel weak, and yet it also doesn't make you feel too powerful. It's kind of like a balance in between. Like, you could handle this, but you might have some trouble. It's not like Shadow of War where you could just take on waves of these enemies without any problem, and it's not like Prey where you kind of have to sneak around a little bit. Don't want to get into too much combat if you don't have enough resources to handle it, kind of thing. Like, you could do this, right? This is Assassin's Creed. I will say the combat's very different, but the stealth system is very much the same, which I really don't have any problem with, because it's been a while since I've played an Assassin's Creed game, which was Syndicate, like 2 years ago. So I didn't really have a problem with the stealth system being basically similar, because a lot of things in this game are different, right? And even the systems, right, with the inventory, like you have like a number of. You have like 5 different sickle swords. You could loot a sickle sword and then compare it to the one that you have equipped, or whatever weapon. There's a light upgrade system, which is not very advanced. It's kind of like how it's been throughout the Assassin's Creed years, where when I say crafting, you don't actually really craft anything. You're just using pelts and animal skins that you've killed to upgrade like your quiver or your pouches, or so you could hold more ammo or grenades or whatever. In this case, you have fire grenades and sleep darts too. So I mean, yeah, it's very, the crafting system's very simple, but amongst all the other changes in the game, it's fine. I didn't really care. It's like, this crafting system's fine. You could upgrade your armor, so you could shoot, like, your bow is more powerful. You could do like armor chest plate upgrades. All these, like, several different types of things. Pretty light stuff, but I didn't mind. I was having so much fun just exploring and fighting and shooting arrows. Great stuff. Great characters too. The story is pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good. I will say it hits a low point like midway through, because the structure is this, like, it's a revenge story, and Bayek, by the way, is the assassin, if you didn't already know, and I think he's my favorite assassin so far in all the Assassin's Creeds, because, and I'll get back to the story in a bit, but I want to talk about Bayek for a second here. He has two sides to him. One side is he's very charismatic, he's very social, he's very fun, he's very, he's very like good with kids, and very a social butterfly. The charisma, he has got a level of charisma to him. But on the other side, he is a cold-hearted murderer. He's a killer. Like, he's a badass. Like, he when he gets fucking pissed off, holy shit. Like, look out. Don't get in his way, right? So I love that two-sided aspect to him, where he's very charismatic, but he's also like, cold-hearted, like, killer. And I love that. I love that. A lot of Ubisoft's characters are kind of like one-dimensional. Even like Altair, kind of like a boring kind of dude, but this guy Bayek is fucking awesome. He is awesome. And the story is, it's a revenge story, like I said before, and Bayek is hunting down four bad guys, part of the Order of the Ancients, and they wear like these blue masks like we've seen in the trailer and stuff. And he hunts down these characters, and once he's done hunting them down, he goes to Cleopatra, and she's like, oh, and like they're allied, right? Bayek and Cleopatra, and Aya, who is Bayek's wife, has been working with Cleopatra. Cleopatra's like, oh, great. Well, there's four more of them. Go and kill them. And I was like, oh, that's not the best way to advance the plot or the story, is to just have four more, pull four more bad guys out of your ass and have me hunt them down again. But it does that, and after you kill those, she's like, oh, thanks, but there's two more. And I was like, oh god. And then but these two more, it starts like a linear sequence, and where you encounter these two other guys, which I liked. It has like a little section. It's called like the Siege of Alexandria, and it's like a little, like an hour, like 45 minutes to an hour long, like linear storyline quest, where you encounter these other two guys, and it's a whole shebang. It's a whole production. But yeah, I mean, it's other than that little like weak spot, the story's pretty good. There's stuff happens. It's good. The Assassin's Creed, like the Assassin's Brotherhood, is born here, and the thing is, the word assassin is not mentioned, but and I didn't expect this, but the Brotherhood was not brought up until very, very late in the game. It's not like, oh, I'm Bayek, I'm on this revenge story, I'm an assassin. No, he's the last Magi, who, if you play the game, you know what that means. If those who don't, it's the Magi were the protectors of the Pharaoh. And now in this new Ptolemaic era, there's no more Magi, because they don't like want the Medjay anymore, but he's like the last one, and he's still like, you know, fighting whatever, but he's like the last Medjay, and you know, he's the last Medjay until like a certain point in the story, and that point is where like he brings together some of his allies, and he's like, we're the Brotherhood, and he doesn't say assassin, but like that's like the moment, that's like the very first moment, but it's pretty late in the game, and then it happens again, but this time with Aya, and it's like official this time, like this is the Brotherhood, we're setting this up. But yeah, it's very ancient Egypt, man. Ancient Egypt, it brings you on this path, right, from Siwa, which is where you start out, Bayek's hometown, of Siwa, and it brings you on the path. I mean, of course, you could fuck off and go wherever the hell you want. Each region has, like, you know, like different level recommendations, so be careful. But if you follow the storyline, it takes you on this, like, path up to Alexandria and then down to Giza and Memphis, and then across the Fayum. When I got to Alexandria for the first time, I wondered, because the first like 6 hours you don't really see a pyramid, right? And I was wondering, this is ancient Egypt, where are these pyramids at? You know, I'm like 5 or 6 hours into the game and have not seen a pyramid. So I'm at Alexandria, I just got there, which is like one of like the big cities. It's like the big city of the game. This huge city, humongous city, and I was like, where are these pyramids at? So I climbed up on one of the buildings, like a 2-story building, and I was like, I wonder if I could see a pyramid from here. And I just looked around at the horizon, and boom, I saw 2 large, huge ass pyramids, and I was like, holy shit, those are the fucking pyramids right there. And I looked at the map, because the pyramids are obviously in Giza, right, and I'm in Alexandria, and I looked at where I was compared to where the pyramids are, and I realized like there are like 3 different regions in between Alexandria and Giza. So I'm looking over 3 different whole entire regions of the game at Giza, at the pyramids from Alexandria. And realizing that just blew my mind, because I like, holy shit, like that's huge. Like I'm looking over half of the map at these pyramids right now, and it was just like a huge moment for me, you know. And eventually you go through and you leave Alexandria on the path, if you're following the story path, and along the way I did the number of side quests. By the way, there are like 100 side quests in this game. I didn't finish all of them. I was towards the end of the game, and I was like, let me just finish the main quest. Like, I'm done. Like, let me just finish this, put it to rest. I'll come back like in a few months and finish these side quests. I need a break, right? It's too much. It's a long fucking game. But I was on my path, and I was searching around for like a hidden temple, and I realized where I was. This was like later on in the game, like a few hours, like another 6 hours after I saw the pyramids for the first time, you know, from Alexandria. And I was looking for this temple, and I was like, you know, I checked the map, and I realized I'm like on the border of Giza right now. You know, I'm like right near the pyramids, and I was in the middle of a sandstorm, so I couldn't see anything around me. Which is why I was checking the map so often to see where the fuck I was, and I was getting closer to Giza, looking for this hidden temple. I was like, holy shit, I'm like right here. Forget about this temple. I need to go and just look at. I need to just walk forward. Let me just walk in a straight line. I'm on my horse. Let me just walk, or a camel. Let me just walk in a straight line and see if I hit the pyramids. And I couldn't see anything. Like, I couldn't see like 3 feet in front of me because of the sandstorm. And I wonder if that was scripted, by the way. The first time you go to Giza is a sandstorm. I wonder if that's scripted. But I was in the sandstorm, and I was going, and I was walking, and all of a sudden I could see, and I could see this wall in front of me, this big wall, but it was slanted up, and I walked forward more, and I realized this is the pyramid. I'm at the base of a pyramid right now. I didn't even notice. I didn't even know it until I got there, and I was like, holy shit. Like, this is fucking incredible. This is the same pyramid that I saw all the way on the other side of the map from Alexandria. My mind was blown away. I was like, holy shit, this is the base of the pyramid. And of course, there were like a few enemies. I dispatched them very quickly because I really wanted to get to the top of the pyramid. And it was such a great experience, such a huge moment. I think that was like the best moment was two best moments were looking at the pyramids for the first time from Alexandria, and then like wandering my way into Giza through the sandstorm and approaching the base of the pyramid out of nowhere were my two favorite moments in video games this year. That's the Giza moment. I'm calling this the Giza moment, which is my favorite moment of the year in games. The Giza moment. I like that. But the world, huge world. Huge map, great world building. Like I said, I've mentioned this before now. The pyramids are freaking awesome. Aya, I'm going to talk about, forgot I mentioned Aya before, by ex-wife. And I remember seeing her for the first time, and I was like, the first time, like 6 hours in Alexandria. When you get there, you go there because you want to meet up with her again. But I remember seeing Aya for the first time. I was like, I want to play as Aya. And you do. You get to play as her. Twice actually. It's not like in Syndicate where you switch the Jacob and Evie. You don't get to like switch to Aya anytime. It's scripted. But there are like 2 or 3 sections where you get to play as her, and they're really cool. Really great stuff. Good freaking stuff, man. Assassin's Creed Origins. If you're a fan of Assassin's Creed, you need to play this game. And if you're not a fan of Assassin's Creed, I don't think, it might you might like it, but I don't think it's gonna make you like Assassin's Creed. I think you'll enjoy the game though, for what it is. It's ancient Egypt, and it's fucking awesome. But yeah, that's my game of the year right there. Assassin's Creed Origins blew my mind. The Giza moment. So yeah. That has been my top 10 games of 2017. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you disagree with any of my picks or the games that I picked or their positions, or you just want to strike up a casual conversation about it or whatever, you could hit me up in the comments or my Twitter. So yeah, if you want to just have a conversation about any of this, or you disagree, or you want to tell me what your list of 2017 was, feel free to do so. But thank you so much for watching. I recommend pretty much all of these games. They're all pretty great, except for the worst 3, which I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Don't play any of those unless you want to. Then go ahead. I mean, who am I, right? But I totally recommend all of these games to anybody. Really, they're all quality, great experiences. And I'm glad that I was able to share them with you. But thank you for watching. Hit me up on Twitter or the comments, whatever you want. But yeah, until next time, I will see you later. Goodbye.